Every single minute, more than 1 million plastic bottles are purchased around the world. Some are used once and thrown away within hours. Many end up in landfills, rivers, and oceans, where they can remain for hundreds of years. For decades, plastic waste was seen as one of humanity's most damaging inventions. Cheap, convenient, and nearly impossible to get rid of. But hidden behind this global waste crisis is a massive industrial transformation that very few people ever see. Across the modern world, an entire network of supergiant plastic-to-fabric recycling plants is quietly turning discarded bottles into clothing, shoes, carpets, and industrial textiles, at a scale measured not in kilograms but in millions of tons every year. Before we step inside this extraordinary recycling ecosystem, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our deep dive documentaries into the hidden industries powering modern life. To understand how plastic bottles became fabric, we need to go back in time. Plastic bottles, most commonly made from PET, polyethylene terephthalate, were first mass-produced in the 1970s. They were lightweight, durable, cheap, and perfect for beverages. Within a few decades, PET bottles had replaced glass almost everywhere, but this convenience came at a cost. PET does not biodegrade. By the 1990s, plastic waste was piling up faster than the world could manage. At the same time, another revolution was happening in textiles. Polyester fibers, invented in the mid-20th century, quickly became the backbone of modern clothing. Strong, flexible, wrinkle-resistant, and cheap, polyester now makes up over 50% of all textiles produced globally. What most people don't realize is that polyester and PET plastic bottles are chemically almost identical. That realization changed everything. Scientists and engineers discovered that PET bottles could be recycled, melted down, and reformed into polyester fibers. The same fibers used to make shirts, jackets, athletic wear, and footwear. Suddenly, waste became raw material. Today, this idea has grown into a vast industrial system. The journey begins far from the factory floor. In cities, neighborhoods, offices, stadiums, and homes. Empty plastic bottles are collected through curbside recycling programs, deposit systems, and commercial waste streams. In the United States alone, billions of PET bottles are collected each year. These bottles are transported to material recovery facilities, or MRFs, enormous sorting centers where mixed recyclables are separated at high speed. Conveyor belts stretch hundreds of feet long. Optical scanners identify plastic types in milliseconds. Air jets blast PET bottles into dedicated streams while other plastics, metals, and paper are diverted elsewhere. Once sorted, PET bottles are compressed into massive bales, each weighing up to 1,200 pounds, and shipped to specialized plastic recycling plants. This is where the transformation truly begins. Inside a supergiant plastic-to-fabric recycling plant, the scale is overwhelming. Mountains of crushed bottles tower overhead. The sound of machinery never stops. Everything runs continuously, 24 hours a day. The first step is washing and decontamination. Bottles are shredded into small flakes, then washed multiple times using hot water, detergents, and friction systems. Labels, glue, food residue, and contaminants are removed. Even tiny impurities can weaken fibers later, so purity is critical. After washing, the clean PET flakes are dried and inspected. High-end facilities use infrared scanners and AI vision systems to detect color variations, foreign plastics, or defects. Only the highest quality material moves forward. Next comes melting and extrusion. The PET flakes are fed into large extruders, where they are heated to temperatures above 260 degrees Celsius. The plastic melts into a thick, honey-like liquid. This molten PET is filtered under pressure to remove microscopic contaminants, then forced through spinnerets, metal plates with thousands of tiny holes. As the molten plastic emerges, it forms long, continuous filaments, the beginning of polyester fiber. These fibers are rapidly cooled, stretched, and aligned to increase strength. Stretching can lengthen fibers up to 4 times their original length, aligning polymer chains and dramatically improving durability. This step is essential for making fabric strong enough for clothing and footwear. At this point, what was once a discarded bottle has become raw textile fiber. The fibers are gathered, twisted, and wound onto massive spools. These spools can weigh hundreds of pounds and contain miles of filament. From here, the material enters the textile phase. In some plants, fibers are cut into staple lengths and spun into yarn, similar to cotton processing. In others, continuous filament yarn is produced for high-performance fabrics. These yarns are then sent to knitting or weaving lines, sometimes in the same facility, sometimes to partner textile mills. Rows of high-speed knitting machines transform yarn into fabric in mesmerizing motion. Needles rise and fall thousands of times per minute. In a single day, one machine can produce thousands of square yards of fabric. This fabric becomes athletic shirts, jackets, leggings, socks, upholstery, carpets, backpacks, and more. For footwear, recycled polyester is commonly used in shoe uppers, mesh panels, and linings. A single pair of running shoes can reuse 8 to 12 plastic bottles. A fleece jacket can contain 25 to 30 bottles. The numbers add up fast. Large recycling networks now process hundreds of thousands of tons of PET per year, turning what was once waste into valuable products. Globally, recycled polyester production has surpassed 10 million tons annually, and demand continues to rise. But this industry isn't just about volume, it's about standards. Recycled fibers must meet strict quality requirements. Tensile strength, elasticity, abrasion resistance, and color consistency are constantly tested. Factories operate labs that run mechanical tests, chemical analysis, and wash durability trials. Clothing brands demand consistency because consumers expect performance, not compromise. Environmental benefits are significant. Producing recycled polyester uses up to 60% less energy than virgin polyester. It reduces dependence on fossil fuels, cuts greenhouse gas emissions, and diverts plastic waste from landfills and oceans. Every ton of recycled PET saves roughly 1.5 tons of CO2 emissions. Yet challenges remain. Not all plastic bottles are recycled. Color contamination, food residue, and mixed plastics still limit recovery rates. Additionally, recycled fibers can only be reused a finite number of times before polymer chains degrade. That's why innovation continues, with chemical recycling, closed-loop systems, and textile-to-textile recycling under active development. Despite these challenges, the plastic-to-fabric industry represents one of the most successful examples of industrial circular economy in action. What once symbolized pollution has become a resource. Waste has become infrastructure. Bottles have become clothes. The next time you put on a jacket, lace up a pair of sneakers, or roll out a carpet, consider this. Parts of what you're touching may have once been floating in a bottle bin, waiting for a second life. Behind that transformation is a vast network of supergiant recycling plants, running day and night, quietly reshaping the relationship between consumption and sustainability. If you enjoyed this journey into the hidden world of plastic-to-fabric recycling, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. We'll continue taking you inside the factories, systems, and industries that most people never see, but everyone depends on. Thanks for watching, and stay curious. Across the United States, more than 100 billion cardboard boxes are used every single year. From Amazon deliveries on your doorstep, to food packaging in grocery stores, to the shipping crates that move America's economy, almost everything is touched by cardboard. But what most people don't know is that over 90% of all cardboard in America is recycled, making it one of the most successful recycling systems in the modern world. And behind that achievement are gigantic facilities, some the size of entire neighborhoods, where mountains of paper waste are transformed back into brand new packaging. Today we're taking you inside one of the largest cardboard recycling plants in America, where millions of tons of waste paper arrive, are shredded, pulped, cleaned, pressed, dried, and reborn as fresh cardboard, ready to start the cycle all over again. But before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss our deep dive documentaries into the hidden industries powering our world. Cardboard might seem simple, just brown paper, but its story stretches back nearly 150 years. In 1871, American inventor Albert Jones patented the first corrugated paper used to protect glass bottles. Soon after, corrugated cardboard evolved into the shipping boxes we know today. By the early 1900s, factories across the US produced millions of boxes for railroads and growing retail industries. But as America exploded in population, consumer goods, and nationwide shipping networks, cardboard waste became a massive problem. By the 1960s, landfills were overflowing with paper packaging. That's when large-scale recycling began. Cities launched curbside programs, grocery stores compacted boxes instead of throwing them away. And by the 1980s, cardboard had become the most recycled material in the country. Today, the recycling rate is astonishing. More than 32 million tons of cardboard and paper are recycled in America every year. And at the heart of this system are the giant plants we're about to explore. Every day, trucks loaded with old corrugated containers, known in the industry as OCC, arrive from across the region. Some come from supermarkets, loaded with flattened produce boxes. Some come from big box retailers, packed tight after nightly restocking. Some come from households, collected from curbside bins across entire cities. At the unloading zone, mountains of cardboard rise stories high, forming hills of material waiting to be reborn. Forklifts, wheel loaders, and giant bulldozers push the waste into towering piles. These facilities often handle up to 2,000 tons per day. That's the equivalent of processing an entire football stadium filled with cardboard every 24 hours. But this cardboard can't be recycled yet. Plastic tapes, food contamination, staples, wooden debris, packing foam, all of this must be removed, and that's where the journey begins. Inside the plant, a web of conveyor belts carries the waste paper upward into the sorting line. Workers and machines team up in one of the fastest and most critical steps of the entire process. Human workers stand along high-speed belts, removing anything that doesn't belong. Their job is intense. A single worker may process 4 to 8 tons of material per hour. Next, high-tech machines take over. By the time the cardboard exits the sorting line, it is nearly pure, clean enough for pulping. The clean paper is fed into giant conveyors, moving toward the heart of the recycling plant, the pulper. The pulper is where the magic happens. Imagine a steel tank the size of a small swimming pool, filled with rotating blades, powerful enough to tear paper apart on a molecular level. Workers release bales of sorted cardboard into the pulper, where it mixes with warm water. The blades rip and churn the material, turning it into a thick slurry called paper pulp. The transformation takes just a few minutes, but the chemistry behind it has been refined over decades. Cardboard is made from cellulose fibers, long strands from trees. When water penetrates the fibers, the hydrogen bonds loosen. Mechanical force breaks the structure, freeing the fibers to be reused. Screens inside the pulper trap the unwanted materials, leaving behind a smooth, oatmeal-like pulp. This pulp will become brand new cardboard, but not before it takes a trip through the most advanced cleaning systems in the industry. The pulp is pumped through a system of machines designed to refine and clean the mixture at microscopic levels. Finally, disc refiners gently brush the fibers, improving their bonding ability for stronger cardboard. By the end of this stage, what began as dirty waste is now a clean, silky pulp ready to become paper once again. This is the dramatic heart of the plant. The paper machine, often hundreds of feet long, it consists of three main systems: the forming section, the press section, and the drying section. The pulp mixture, now 99% water and 1% fiber, is poured onto a moving mesh screen called the wire. As it travels, water drains away. Vibrations shake the fibers into alignment. A mat of future cardboard begins to appear. For the first time, the material looks like real paper. The wet sheet moves between massive steel rollers. These rollers squeeze out more water under extreme pressure, up to 1000 psi. After pressing, the sheet is still too wet, but its thickness and structure are now fixed. This is where the real transformation happens. The paper passes through rows of steam-heated cylinders, some over 6 feet in diameter, reaching temperatures of 250 degrees Fahrenheit, 120 degrees Celsius. As moisture evaporates, the sheet strengthens and shrinks slightly, becoming stiff, durable, and ready for corrugation. By the time it leaves the drying section, the sheet is a ribbon of smooth paper traveling at speeds over 3,000 feet per minute. This long ribbon is either rolled into massive reels or sent directly to the corrugator. Stacks of fresh cardboard are bundled, strapped, and moved to storage or shipped to customers the same day. The process is continuous. Some plants produce up to 12 miles of cardboard every hour. From here, they're printed, folded, glued, and turned into the recognizable boxes Americans use every single day. In fact, many boxes you receive from online shopping were probably a cereal box or newspaper just weeks earlier. If you enjoyed this journey inside the supergiant cardboard recycling plant, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss our next deep dive into the incredible processes that keep our world running.